the Rati psychological state in me, the psychological state in me which makes me fall in love with somebody, that is appealed to by the rasa of Shringar on stage. The fear inside me, hidden down somewhere, that finds utterance in the fear of the characters, and this linking is called rasa nispatti or manifestation of rasa. Hello and welcome to Nibble Pop. This is the festive season and today happens to be the beginning of Devi Pakho with the Mahalaya. I thought of making something close to our tradition today. I know you are not in the mood for studying right now, but many of you have requested to give an introduction to the theories on classical Indian literature. So this video is going to be a discussion on rasa theory, where I will be giving you the basic points of the concepts of rasa and bhava in connection with Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra. You have this in your first semester if you are studying in West Bengal State University and many other universities following the CBCS syllabus of UGC. So stay with me till the end of this video. This is Monami Mukherjee. Shubho Sharodiya to all of you. So far as literature is concerned, or for that matter any kind of art, you can categorize them in two categories. One in which something is narrated to you, where maybe somebody tells you a story, and another form is where something is shown to you. Now that can be a dance performance, that can be a work of art such as a painting or a sculpture, or maybe something like a drama. In ancient Indian literature, we see these two categories as well. The first category is better known as Shruti Kavya and the second category is called Drishya Kavya. Now Kavya, although we usually associate in casual terms with poetry, but here Kavya means literature in general. Shruti Kavya means something which is narrated to you, to be more specific, the epics. And Drishya Kavya includes everything that is presented on stage for a live audience, such as dance, plays, and there are different categories of drama as well. I'm not going into the categorization of drama right now. I'll just give you one or two examples. There are forms such as Nataka, such as Shakuntala, forms such as Prakarana, like Mrichakatika. So these are different kinds of drama we come across in Indian classical literature and they come under Drishya Kavya. Now in both Shruti Kavya and Drishya Kavya, there is something which acts as the basic essence of literature, and this something is defined and explained by Bharat Muni in his book Natya Shastra. Now before anything, let me give you a warning that Natya Shastra might appear to be written by a single man, but it is often contended that there was not one single person who wrote this book. Bharat Muni was of course a very erudite sage and he had many followers, disciples, and through conversations they came to certain conclusions, and it might be possible that many of his followers, they added to the points which he produced in that book, and that kind of led to this whole body of grammar so far as Natya is concerned. Natya is, again, it refers to anything which is performed on stage, not just Nataka, okay? And in Natya Shastra, Shastra means a book that defines the codes or the rules, that is Shastra. In Natya Shastra, we get an idea about different essential features of Natya, and Rasa along with Bhava are the key ingredients, we can say, that we come across in this book. If you want any English corresponding word for these two terms, you can say that rasa is often associated with the word sentiments, and bhava is associated with the words psychological states. Now, after the end of this video, you'll be able to understand why these are called so and what is their relationship. First, let us look at the definition that is provided in the 6th chapter of Natya Shastra. Rasa is defined as something which is produced by a combination of three things: vibhava, anubhava and vyabhichari bhava. Let's first try to understand what rasa really means. You see, when a person eats food, he eats a meal which is prepared by many ingredients, meat, vegetables, salt, sugar, spices, all these things. And when we eat something, we have a certain satisfaction, pleasure, because we have a sensation. But can you identify separately the ingredients? Like, yes, you can, of course, identify that there is cardamom in this, or there is clove in this, or there is salt in this. But what we get as taste is a combination of these things. This taste that we get may be compared to the taste that we get when we watch a play or read an epic. And this tasting process may be called rasa nishpatti, or getting the taste of the rasa. So rasa is that taste, or taste is a very dull translation of the word, because the word rasa, it involves a certain kind of sensation that the word taste doesn't have. You taste with your tongue, but when you experience rasa, you experience that with all your sensations. So it's more holistic, more all engulfing thing. When a play is written or performed, different kinds of emotions are generated in the people who watch the play. And how is that produced? By the actions and thoughts of people who are performing. So we can say that the action and the thoughts of people on stage, they generate a kind of sensation in the readers, and this sensation may be called rasa. When you watch a play, you might feel sad, you might feel happy, you might feel terrified. So all these emotions that are aroused in the readers, in the spectators, in the audience, these emotions are the rasa which Bharat Muni talks about. So first, let us quickly go through the different kinds of rasa which he identifies. He identifies 8 different kinds of rasas in Natya Shastra. Originally, there were 8 types of rasas. What are they? The Shringar rasa, which may be translated as the erotic. We have Hasya rasa, the comic. Karuna rasa, which is the rasa of the pathos or the pathetic, furious. Raudra. Okay, so Raudra rasa is the fury that is generated. Then you have Veer rasa, or the heroic. And then Bhayanaka rasa. Bhayanak is terrible. Then you have Bibhatsa rasa. Bibhatsa is odious, something which you feel disgusted about. And finally, the Adbhuta rasa, or the marvelous, something which causes wonder. These are the 8 rasas that are identified primarily in Natya Shastra. But later we see that a 9th rasa is included, and that is the Vatsalya rasa. And I'm sorry, I don't have an English word for it. This may be called as a sentiment that a parent feels towards their children, and not just parents, anybody who considers someone as their child feels this sentiment. You can even feel these kinds of sentiments of Vatsalya towards your pet dog if you have one, or for anyone in general, like teachers can feel towards their students. So it's a sentiment that is usually felt by somebody for someone who is considered to be their child figure. And because of these 9 rasas, we have this word Navaras. But remember, there were only 8 rasas originally included in this book. Now, in Indian classical literature, we see that literature is often associated with different kinds of gods. And even in ancient European literature, we see that the writers often seek the blessings of some higher power, some divine muse. And in case of Indian literature, it is felt that all these rasas that are produced, they are linked with some kind of gods. And these gods are named in this book as well. So let me just quickly take you through the list of the gods who are linked with these different kinds of rasas. And while doing that, I'll try to also explain a little bit about these different kinds of rasas. So first, let me talk about the Shringar Ras or the erotic. From the word itself, we understand that this is associated with sexual desire, love, fertility, and union between man and woman. Although in some cases we see that relationships don't have happy endings, and in those sad relationships, we still have the erotic rasa. So Shringar Rasa is not always about happiness. It also involves the kinds of feelings that lovers have when they are separated from each other. And who is the ruling god of this emotion? Who other than Vishnu? Because we know that in Indian theology, the love between Radha and Krishna is considered to be the eternal symbol of love and the eternal symbol of longing, because Radha and Krishna, their love story did not end happily. So the kind of fulfillment that Radha and Krishna's love reflects and the kind of lack of fulfillment is both reflected in the rasa of Shringar. This rasa is ruled by Vishnu because Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu. Now let's come to the comic rasa or the Hasya rasa. If you are an Indian, you would understand that Hasya definitely means anything related to laughter. And whenever comedy is used, rasa of the comic or the Hasya rasa is evoked. And who are the deities controlling this? The Pramathas. Then we come to the next rasa which we were talking about, that is Karuna rasa. The god associated with Karuna rasa or the rasa of sadness is Yama. Yama is the lord of death in Indian theology. And we know that death is something that causes a lot of sadness to the people who are related to someone who dies. And therefore, there is a lot of sadness associated with death. No doubt, this rasa, the rasa of Karuna, is linked with Lord Yama. Then we have the furious Raudra ras. Raudra ras, which usually is evoked in scenes of anger, it is associated with Rudra. Rudra is another name for Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva has a lot of names, and interestingly, we will have other manifestations of Lord Shiva for other rasas too, which is something unique because Shiva in general is the Nataraj, and Nataraj means he is the ruler of Nata. Nata is performance. When art is performed in the form of dance, in the form of any performance, it is Nata. And therefore, Nataraj or Shiva is the ruling god of drama in general. So Rudra is the ruling deity of Raudra ras. Then we come to Bibhatsa ras. Bibhatsa means something which you don't want to watch actually. Now you might ask me that why is there Bibhatsa ras, or is it a ras even? Can we actually enjoy it? We do enjoy it. When you watch those horror movies where, intestines come out of somebody's mouth and weird things happen which actually are pretty disgusting. That is Bibhatsa. And you do watch that, you do enjoy that, because that has a deep psychological connection with our minds. And therefore, there is a need for that particular sentiment as well in drama. And who rules that particular rasa? Mahakal. So Mahakal is the ruling deity of Bibhatsa rasa. Very much linked to Bibhatsa rasa is Bhayanaka rasa. Now, while Bibhatsa rasa is related to disgust, not actual fright, you are not actually frightened, you are disgusted. But when you are really frightened, terrified, that is called Bhayanak. And Kal rules that. So Mahakal rules Bibhatsa rasa and Kal rules Bhayanak rasa. And there is a very fine line between the two. Then we have the heroic rasa or the Veera rasa, which is like the symbol of a glorious man, usually man, because in ancient classical literature, usually men are projected as pretty heroic and women are pretty victims, Heroic is ruled by Lord Indra. Now, if you are familiar with different kinds of Hindu mythologies, you might ask me a question that why Indra? Indra happens to always lose his heaven and seeks help from everybody. That is what he does. We are talking here right on Mahalaya, and this happens to be an auspicious day associated with Mahishasura Mardini. And Lord Indra, he actually went to seek help because Mahishasura had taken possession of heaven and he cannot win it back. And Devi Durga is evoked, by this combination of all kinds of forces, and she gets rid of Mahishasura. That's the story of Durga. So why is Indra heroic? Now you see, actually Indra is heroic maybe because he's a political hero as well, because he keeps this balance, And for a country like India, which depends on agriculture, Indra being the ruling god of thunder and all, he is considered to be the protector. Because if he gets angry, you have these floods and these thunderstorms and the crops go bad. Anyway, so that's a digression. But Indra is considered to be the ruling deity of Veer rasa. And often we see that Indra's blessings make people pretty heroic. Don't forget that Arjuna, one of the greatest heroes of Mahabharata, is considered to be the son of Indra. Anyway, so enough digression there. Finally, we come to the 8th rasa, which is Adbhut rasa or the marvelous. Lord Brahma, who is considered to be the creator of this universe, is associated with this particular rasa primarily because, well, if it is a wonderful thing, it must have been created by Brahma himself. So we see that the trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwar, this trinity is involved in these rasas as well, because these rasas, they are linked directly to the basic essential psychological conditions of your mind, which is nothing but the bhav of your mind. So rasa is integrally connected to bhava. So when a playwright, he writes anything, his aim is to create kind of sentiments in the audience or the rasa in the audience. So how will he do that? He will do that through certain actions or sequence of events which are also described in the book Natya Shastra. And Bharat Muni, he shows us that there is a direct link between one kind of bhava to one kind of rasa. Bhava or psychological state of a person means whatever mood you're feeling, in very simplistic terms. And he identifies again some fixed psychological states. Fixed means things which are more steady and continuous, like basic moods of human beings. And he identifies a lot of other kinds of moods which are not fixed but can be called complementary psychological states. You swing in and out of them. Rasa is created by the effect of these complementary psychological states which are resulted from the fixed psychological states. I am giving an example to understand that. Suppose a person is generally happy. Okay, happy in a sense that maybe he is in love with somebody. But while a person is in love with someone, doesn't he feel jealous at sometimes, or maybe envious of someone, and then at the same time possessive, afraid of losing the person he loves, sad when they are away. So love is a fixed psychological state. But these different variations which he experiences, these may be called as vyabhichari bhava, which means which keep on walking about, roaming about in his mind. They are not as fixed as the psychological state of love. So we can identify two different kinds of bhava. One may be called the sthayi bhava, or something which is fixed, and complementary bhava, something which is not fixed, which is called vyabhichari bhava. But when rasa is created or generated in the minds of the spectators or the audience, or it is created in general in that performance, then that is related directly to the sthayi bhava, which means that the actions on the stage, they might represent the different complementary bhavas. Okay, maybe the character is jealous, or the character is possessive, or the character is angry. But if the reason is love, then the rasa created is erotic, because that is connected to the sthayi bhav of love. So let's quickly find out which sthayi bhava is related to which rasa, and what are the different kinds of methods that the dramatist or the playwright adopts to create that rasa. First, let me talk about the rasa of love or the erotic. The bhav which is associated with erotic rasa or shringar rasa is called rati. How is this reflected on stage? These are reflected by determinants like garlands, ornaments, beauty, flowers, companionship with somebody very close. And what are the actions we see? A smiling face, sweet words, motion of eyebrows and glances. So all these kinds of things are performed on stage to generate that rasa of shringar. So the bhava is rati. The determinants are these conditions like being with somebody you love, staying in a happy place, and the consequent or the actions are the smiling faces and all. Now come to the next one, hasya. Hasya rasa is related to the bhav hasya. Both are same. And when do we laugh while seeing a performance? When is laughter aroused? Through mimicry of others, incoherent talk, somebody is talking where nobody has any clue what he's talking about, that causes a lot of laughter at times, foolishness, acting stupidly, and sometimes even physical actions, somebody falling flat on his face. Those are the things that create laughter. And although it's written in the book that you associate that with smiling faces of characters on stage, but it can also happen that the characters themselves are not smiling, but their actions are provoking laughter in us. In that also we'll say that it is producing hasya rasa. So the bhav in us already present is hasya. The action on the stage is linking to that bhav which is already present in us. And this linking process is creating the rasa of hasya. Let's come to the rasa of karuna, sorrow. This is connected to the bhav shok. Whenever we have any kind of sorrow in life, we say that we are having shok. On stage, what are the determinants of shok? How is shok presented on stage? The first and the primary thing, death of somebody beloved, loss of wealth, that is also a reason of sadness, captivity, somebody is locked up in prison. So these are the conditions that are presented on stage. And what about the actors? How do they act out this condition? By shedding tears, by sighing, by falling on the ground, by weeping, acting in a paralytic way, like they don't have any control of their limbs, and even insanity and death. So this elementary psychological state of shok is connected intimately with the rasa that is produced by these determinants. And this rasa is the karuna rasa. Now coming to the next rasa, the rasa of Rudra, since it is related to anger, the essential psychological state that it relates to is Krodh. You all feel Krodh, right? Anger, fury. That is related to this particular rasa. And what is the dramatic mode of showing it? The determinants or the conditions in which Krodh is acted on are through abusive language, insolence, quarrel, altercation. And how do the actors present that? With red, bloodshot eyes, hands held in fist, ready to fight, nostrils swollen, so all ready to combat, screams. So that is fury represented on stage. Now you have to keep in mind that these rules don't just apply to Nataka only, but to any kind of presentation related to Natya. A very good way of visualizing these different modes of expression is to watch a Bharatnatyam presentation or a Kathakali dancer, where we see that these different modes which I'm talking about, these different determinants and these different actions are done on stage to produce a kind of rasa in the spectator. So the next rasa we're going to take up is heroism or Veer Ras. So what is the essential ingredient or psychological state in us that is related to heroism? Energy, utsaha. Because without energy, you cannot undertake any heroic venture. Interestingly, Veer Rasa is not related to physical power at all. Although we see that people with a lot of energy, they have a lot of physical prowess too. At least in Indian classical literature, we see that. But having physical strength is not the only thing that is required of a hero. He must have a lot of energy, because without energy, his physical power is not going to produce any result at all. What are the determinants? A hero has to have a lot of patience and at the same time, a lot of agility, energy, and the consequent action on stages. You have a bold stature and boldness of purpose. A hero should not show any weakness on stage, because then Veer Rasa will not be evoked. Fear is on the other side of the spectrum. Fear, which is related to the Bhayanak Rasa. It appeals directly to the psychological state of Bhaya, because all of us, we feel scared at one point or some points in our lives. So we know that feeling, that is something familiar to us. And therefore, when we see certain things on stage acted out in front of us, we feel that kind of fear which we are familiar with. And what are the ways in which this is aroused? Roaming in a dark forest, seeing some wild animal, hearing the hooting of owl. And how is that fear shown on stage? By perspiration. Somebody sweats, and then these hands start trembling and the lips appear parched, and there is some loss of breath, and even screams, frightened screams, different from screams of anger. You should be able to differentiate between the two, definitely. So all these consequent actions that are caused by these determinants or conditions produce a certain kind of rasa, which is called the bhayanak rasa, which is linked to the condition of bhaya. That is why it's called bhayanak, related to bhaya. Now it is again very much similar to something where we feel disgust, the bibhatsa rasa. Bibhatsa rasa appeals or relates directly to the bhava of jigupsa. Jigupsa means disgust. You see somebody vomiting, oh, that's disgust. I saw a movie when I was very young. It was called something called Blob or something, where this alien comes and it's actually like a jelly which keeps on expanding, and by the end of the movie it becomes so huge, and when you look at it you feel like vomiting yourself. That is disgusting. And at the same time I didn't want to watch it, but I didn't switch it off, because that is somehow appealing to a particular psychological state which I am familiar with. So I keep on watching that. Now, if a play has only this rasa of bibhatsa all throughout its scenes and acts, of course it's going to fail miserably. But just like I said, that a drama is like a cuisine prepared in front of you. It's like a banquet prepared, and every spice is important. Every spice in its right proportion will give you a beautiful after effect. So bibhatsa rasa is related to jigupsa, the bhava of disgust in us. And what are the determinants? What are the conditions in which this is aroused? Of course, by anything that is not a happy sight. Even violence is disgusting at times. How is it acted out by the actors? What are the consequence actions, you can say? Again, they might have heartache, and they might show narrowing of their eyes. They don't want to watch something. They might spit out something. Okay, they might actually have nausea. So that is the kind of action we see, which is linked to the generation of bibhatsa rasa. Finally, adbhut rasa. Now all of us, since childhood, we experience wonder. Every time we see a new thing, we feel like it's magic. That is wonder. And this is called Vismaya. So Vismaya is a feeling in us which is linked to the rasa of Adbhuta. Because whatever is Adbhut makes us feel wonder. So what are the conditions in which this rasa is produced? Something magical happens. Maybe an angel appears. Something extraordinary done by a normal human being. Or some wonderful thing that happens in nature. How is this acted out? What are the consequent actions? The eyes wide open, moving of the head to and fro. Wow, this is wonderful. That is the kind of reaction or the kind of action that the characters play, which produces that sense of awe in us, wonder in us, like you feel when you watch the Harry Potter film for the first time. So the Adbhut rasa is connected to this eternal emotion in us, the emotion of Vismaya. So if I ask you now, is rasa creating bhava or bhava creating rasa? I mean, who is producing what? You have a psychological state of happiness in you or sadness in you. States which are always present deep inside our psyches, not always manifesting. I'm not saying that a person is always happy and sad and fearful and terrified and everything together. No. I'm saying that these psychological states are basic ingredients of our thought process. So they are always present. So bhava is always present. So rasa is not creating bhava, it is already there. How is rasa created? Rasa is created by action of the characters on stage. So it is not created by my bhava, right? I am the audience. I am not creating any rasa there. Rasa is created by the characters, by the playwright on stage. I am part of the audience with these 8 psychological states inside my mind. So what is happening while performance is nobody is creating the other. Rasa is not creating bhava, bhava is not creating rasa, but they are identifying each other. The happy psychological state in me, the rati psychological state in me, the psychological state in me which makes me fall in love with somebody, that is appealed to by the rasa of Shringar on stage. The fear inside me hidden down somewhere, that finds utterance in the fear of the characters, and this linking is called rasa nispatti or manifestation of rasa. I know these are a bit abstract concepts, but literature is abstract, isn't it? It's not like you can actually define it by the 3 laws of motion. Hell, even science cannot be defined in that way. People keep on changing their own ideas. Einstein came and Newtonian ideas were gone. And science is as abstract as literature. So when you are talking about theories of drama, you will have these abstract concepts. And when you will study about Aristotle's ideas, Aristotle may be seen as a Western counterpart of Bharat Muni. He's talking about Western classical drama. There he is still, far more concrete about the ways he's talking, because he bases his work on, or his ideas on, Sophocles mostly. So he watched these plays and he said this is the kind of play that should be written. Bharat Muni is giving a general idea based on which we judge Indian classical drama. So he is starting not with concrete examples but with abstract ideas, and that becomes difficult, especially if you are a newcomer, your first semester, you are young students fresh from your high schools. I really feel sorry that you have to go through all these psychological stuff in the very beginning, but these ideas will become easier for you to understand when you put them in context of the text which you are going to read. For example, in Shakuntala, you would see which moments are identified as moments when the Shringar Rasa is evoked, when Vatsalya Rasa is evoked, when Karuna Rasa is evoked, and what are the actions of the characters that are producing that particular rasa. I've made this whole series on Shakuntala, a thorough textual reading, and while reading the text, I've tried to locate and identify whenever I could the action of manifesting these rasas. That which point you have the Shringar rasa, which point you have the Rudra rasa. Those are very important. You have to contextualize these concepts. In Mritshakatik, when you will read, I'll be starting that series very soon. I will show you how the concept of the heroic Veer Rasa is actually challenged by Shudraka, and how a different kind of heroism emerges, a different kind of eroticism emerges. The erotic is connected to so many other psychological states, the Vyabhichari bhavas, and that are brought in beautifully by Shudraka. For now, just remember that rasa means the effect that a play has on the mind of the spectator, and bhava means the emotional conditions which a human being feels in general. And rasa is produced by a combination of the determinants. Determinants means the things that are happening, the conditions, somebody dying, somebody falling in love, those are the conditions. So, combination of determinants, consequent actions, which is anubhava, experience, what you are actually seeing happening on stage, and vyabhichari bhava, the kind of psychological state which you reach temporarily because of those actions on stage, which are related to your permanent psychological states. So that is the definition of rasa in simple plain words. If you think that you haven't understood a thing, watch it again. Maybe, watching it the second time would make you understand things a little bit more. If you feel any questions coming up in your mind, don't hesitate to ask me in the comment section. I will try to answer you as much as I can, and I would also advise you to watch my video on Aristotle's theory of drama, because that is something which you would need for your ideas about ancient European drama, which you probably have in the second paper, Code 2. So with this, I'm going to leave you now till my next class. Thank you all for being with me. I don't know when I'm going to air this, but probably before the puja ends, so it's still festive time. My heartfelt good wishes for all of you and your families. It is wonderful to have you with us. So till my next video, please stay safe, stay happy. Bye-bye.